Hey, it's Carl here and welcome to another tutorial in the Automotive series in Unreal Engine. We've come a long way. We rigged the car with cinematic car rig, slapped on professional materials from the automotive materials pack, generated terrain in Gaia, textured it, scarred foliage with PCG and wired up lighting through ultra dynamic sky. If you missed any of those, links down in the description. And now you might be thinking, alright, we're done, right? Well, not quite. Here's the thing, if your project's color setup is wrong, it's like painting the Mona Lisa in a pitch dark room. Everything's technically in place, but the result is miles away from what you wanted. And that's exactly what today's tutorial is about. How to properly set up your Unreal Engine project visually, so the colors you see in the editor are the same colors your client gets in the final render. So black is actually black, red is actually red, and not some weird, overcooked tomato. Alright, why is this even a problem? Because Unreal Engine by default works in the sRGB color space with a built-in tone mapper that simulates a filmic look. And that's great for games, honestly. But when you're doing commercial automotive work, where the client stares at your render and compares it side by side with a photo from their latest shoot, the default settings can absolutely wreck you. You know, the Mexican red paint has to match exactly, no tonal shifts, period. The default Unreal Tone Mapper does a few things that are perfectly fine for games, but become a headache in commercial production. First, it compresses bright colors, meaning if you've got an intense red car paint under harsh light, the tone mapper will shift it towards orange or even yellowish. This is called path to white. Every color, given enough brightness, drifts towards white, but the route it takes can change the hue along the way. Second, the default sRGB space has a pretty narrow gamut, meaning certain colors, especially cyan, deep greens and saturated magenta, are simply out of reach. You just can't display them correctly. And this is where OCIO comes in. OpenColorIO along with ACES, the Academy color encoding system. ACES is a color management standard created by the same academy that hands out the Oscars. Film studios use it, VFX houses like ILM use it. And OCIO is basically a framework that lets you use ACES and other color spaces across different software. Unreal Engine has had built-in OCIO support since version 4.26, but it really became usable from version 5 onwards. In practice, OCIO does three things for you. First, the engine internally works in a wider color space, so your materials and lighting behave in a more physically accurate way. Second, you get a viewport preview that's much closer to what you'll actually get in the render. And third, you export renders in a format that can be properly graded in compositing without losing information. Sounds complicated, but I promise, setting it up is just a few clicks. Well, maybe a dozen, but every single one matters. Let's get into it. Open up your project, go to Edit, Project Settings. Under Engine, Rendering, look for the default settings section. Global illumination method should be set to lumen, we did that back in the materials tutorial. Reflection method, also lumen. Hardware ray tracing enabled, assuming you've got an RTX card. Also double check that shadow map method is set to virtual shadow maps. Set the correct DirectX version to 12 is what you want. Now plugins. Movie render queue is the priority here. If you're doing animation work, it should be enabled by default. Also turn on additional render passes and Niagara MRQ support. We need to enable one more thing. In the plugins tab, type in OpenColorIO. This is one of the most important things we'll do today. Check the box. Okay, now we can restart Unreal. After the restart, let's create a new folder and call it OCIO. Now right-click in the content browser and navigate to Miscellaneous, then OpenColorIO Configuration. And here's the thing, this used to be a nightmare. You had to go to the OCIO website, download config files, load folders and wire everything up manually. In the version we're working with, Unreal Engine 5.7, it's all baked into the engine. In our OCIO configuration asset, the configuration file field already has the correct path. We don't touch that. Now we care about the two fields below. In desired color spaces, add one entry, Linear Rec 709. This is our working space, the one Unreal uses for internal calculations. In desired display views, add ACES sRGB. This is the transform that tells your monitor how to display those colors. Save everything. And okay, we've clicked through a bunch of stuff, but I don't know about you, I don't see any changes here, especially not in the colors. That's because we now need to tell the viewport to actually use our profile. Go to the viewport, click on the View Mode drop-down, the one that usually says Lit. Look for OCIO display. Select the asset we just set up. Then in the first field set Linear Rec 709 and in the second one below ACES sRGB. And of course tick the Enable Display checkbox. What just happened? We told Unreal, hey, you're working internally in linear, but on my monitor run everything through ACES so I see the colors properly. And here's the wow moment, the viewport should now look right. Colors will be richer, blacks deeper, and bright areas won't be as aggressively blown out. Cool, viewport sorted. But what about the actual render? We go to Movie Render Queue, because in Automotive we render from there anyway, not from a viewport screenshot, right? In the render settings, add a color output node. Enable OCIO and select our profile. And here's the crucial bit, disable tone curve. Why? Because if we're rendering to EXR, and we should be rendering to EXR, we want the raw linear image with all the brightness and color information intact. Tone curve gets applied later, not in the engine. The export format should be 16-bit OpenEXR. That's the format that preserves the full dynamic range and all the color data. If you export as PNG or JPEG, you lose exactly what we just spent all this time setting up. If you're not planning to do any compositing and you just want a finished image straight out of Unreal, then don't disable tone curve. The engine will apply ACES tone mapping and you'll get a nice ready-to-use image. Just keep in mind you're giving up flexibility in post. Alright, let's recap where we are. We've got a project where the engine displays colors through ACES, which means richer blacks, proper handling of bright colors and no weird tonal shifts. The viewport shows us an accurate preview through OCIO. Ultra Dynamic Sky gives us physically correct lighting that's finally being displayed the way it should be. And our renders come out of Movie Render Queue in EXR format, preserving the full range of information for post-production. A few steps and your project jumps from nice demo to production pipeline. That's it. If you enjoyed this one, I'd appreciate a subscribe. If there's a specific topic you'd like me to cover, let me know and I'll see you next time!